Good morning, student. Today, the discussion will continue on society, law, and ethics. One new topic we'll today discuss, that is digital property right. So, before that, we'll first recall to yesterday's topic. So, student, as I am telling that today we'll discuss about society, law, and ethics. So, first of all, the things that today we'll discuss about the digital property right and its aspect. What are the different areas and threats related to digital property right, and then we'll proceed further on different types of licenses are there while using any digital property. So the thing is that the topic that we have yesterday. Let me share my screen. Just a minute. Hmm. Yesterday we have discussed about the basic three ethical things. What are the things aspects? Are three aspects we have discussed that are intellectual property right, plagiarism, and digital property right. So what does it mean? The intellectual property right. Intellectual property right means whenever anybody's creation is there. So if the owner is one owner wants, in that case only it can be shared with anybody. So otherwise it cannot be shared or it cannot be used with anybody else without the consent of the owner. And second one was plagiarism, quite like that. Plagiarism means the stealing information or stealing any type of things from others or the owner's creation. Then last one is digital property right. While we are using in digital content or any type of digital things, so that time we should maintain the rights property. Now what does it mean? Just like for example, while we are using any online platform, in that case we'll not use any others data, others information without the consent to the owner. In recent time we can see a lot of social media sites are there where anybody else create with anybody else another's name, or in their name any account is created, or sometimes we can see different just like fake companies or fraudulent companies use lot of symbols and trademarks of some reputed company. So in this way actually what will happen, the reputation of the original company go down. This comes under actually digital property right. So these are the different aspect. Any online personal account, email, communication account, social media account, shopping accounts, photo and video sharing account, anything that we can see in the social media or in our daily online normal searches. If we use others account without the consent to the actual owner of that particular account, so then it comes under digital property right. Actually, digital property rights lie with the owner. What does it mean? Next term, digital property right lie with the owner means what? Whenever we are using anybody's content or anybody's asset, so that time, if we do not if we do not express the consent to the owner, so obviously we are telling lie to the owner. That means without the knowledge of the owner, if anybody else use his or her personal account or personal things, personal information, even you can see a lot of payment is done by some fraudulent activity or fraudulent websites, so that also comes under the digital property right. Now threats to digital properties. What are the different areas how digital property rights can be just can be overruled actually? So the first thing is that digital software penetration tool. So in modern time, we can see there are various softwares are there which are not available free, but there are few softwares are there, or illegal softwares are there, or tools are there through which illegal downloads are there, and many people use those illegal downloads, which softwares are actually are proprietary type. That means belongs to any particular person or particular organization without that organization knowledge that if this software or if those digital content are used by somebody else, by normal people, in that case it also violates the digital property right. Next, stealing and plagiarizing codes of your digital property. What does it mean? Sometimes, in case of this, basically happens in terms of software industry. So when one developer creates some code or creates some software, then the source code is delivered in a illegal way, and the actual creation of the owner is hampered. So that actually comes under the stealing and plagiarizing. Plagiarizing means, we know that the stealing someone's creation, that is called plagiarizing. Now, digital protection, just like, since this is one type of violation of rules, so obviously, to protect this type of things, some protocols, some rules are there, even some things that is comes under the uh, different laws of different countries, that also comes under the digital property right protection. First is anti-temper solution. Anti-temper solution means what? There are few softwares which create such protection tools against your creation, that it will not help, not lets you create the copy of it, or it will not lets you make duplicate of your content. Just like, if anybody is creating any software, any games, or any type of app, or develop any type of app, so its source code will not be shared with anybody without the particular owner's knowledge. That comes under anti-temper solution. That means tempering anybody's content, that to violate, if any fraudster try to violate those things, that comes under anti-temper solution. Next is legal clauses. What are legal clauses? Actually, legal clauses means, whenever we are creating any content or any software or any type of digital content, so there we should mention any terms of service. That means, if any software is created and it is been shared with any of its user, in that case, it should be just like compiled with some terms of services. Then whoever is using those content must ensure the terms of services, or to use these things, this kind of product. The limit of sharing software code. Now, what does it mean? Limit of sharing software code means, when we are developing the software code, every time software code is not to be delivered, sometimes the only the product is to be delivered. So that things can be maintained by digital right management solution. Digital right management solution, what does it mean? Actually, it actually helps to protect the software from being scrapped means what? The actual source code, in that case, actual source code will not be shared. The only the purpose, only for user purpose, user can use the thing, use the particular software, but cannot use the code. That means, cannot create the copy of it, or cannot create the duplicate of that particular software. Then now, the next very important term in terms of these ethical issues, that is open source philosophy and software licenses. While we are in digital world, in every moment, every day, we use lot of digital product in terms of easy make our work easier. So when we are using this software, there are basically two category, we can say. One is open source software. Within this open source, some more categories are there, and another version is proprietary software. So, open source philosophy, what does it suggest actually? Open source philosophy means the type of software program where there are very less licenses categories are there. That means user has very less type of protocols where they can use the software, they can modify the software program, and any type of permission is given. Permissions, all type of permission are granted to the user, to the third party user who are using that software. So that means such software generally gives user freedom to run or use the software for any purpose, to study and modify the program, and to redistribute copies of either the original or modified program. Means what? Suppose anybody is creating one particular software or code or program. In that case, when he or she is delivering this software product to its user, in that case, user no need to take permission further, no need to take further permission from the owner, and to distribute, to make its copy, to modify the program or code present in that software. That comes under the open source philosophy. Now, what are the different terms? As I told, in open source software category also various terms and there terms or various things are there that actually emphasize different aspect of open source technology. So what are different terminology will now conclude. So first of all, open means what? Open means that is open to world. That means when it is been created, it will be shared with any people within the world. Any people can use it. Any people can modify it. Now, few terms are there, and that are quite different in their usable category. For example, the first one is free software. So by the name suggests, we can easily understand that free means freedom. Free means actually it here suggests that it is there is freedom or liberty. Liberty to use the program, liberty to run the program, liberty to make the copy of that particular software. Anybody can use that software. This free software term or free software category is first time published by Richard Stallman by his foundation, Free Software Foundation. So in this free software category, few points always we have to remember what are the terms actually free software suggests. The first thing is there the freedom to run the program for any purpose. That means what? Anybody can use that software, anybody can use that particular program for any type of purpose. Means once he got the software or once he got the particular code, in that after that he can use the software like his own things. Then freedom to study how the program works. That means if anybody wants, then they can go for the programming codes or software code that is associated with that software. Then freedom to redistribute copy. As I already mentioned that in case of open source terminology, there are freedom or lever to redistribute the copy. That means in that case, we no need to take any permission from the owner. And to freedom improve the program means anybody, if any programmer is wants to improve the quality of that particular software in some aspect, so in that case they can modify the program. This freedom or this lever is granted in terms of free software. A program is free software if user have all this freedom. This means freedom for run the program, freedom to redistribute the program, freedom to just like modify the program, or freedom to after modification they can share the program. These all four categories of freedom if associated with any type of software, that comes under the free software. And this free software was first time termed or coined by Richard Stallman free by his Free Software Foundation, by his foundation, Free Software Foundation. So now next terminology is there, open source software. Actually, what does it mean? Open means open, actually it is freely available or it is open to everyone. So when we are using any open source software, that means it can be used as freely. It does not have any type of fee reimbursement. That means whenever you are using or you are trying to fetch that software, you no need to pay any type of fee or charge to that company who is the developer or actual owner of that software. And in that case also, just like company constructing the business model around open source software may receive payments concerning support for the development. In here, one difference is there with the free software. In terms of free software, the particular user has the lever to develop or to redistribute the things. But in terms of open source software, you can use it freely. But whenever in the time of upgradation of the things, that means you can use it freely, okay fine, but when you need to upgrade the software, that means in some respect you want to modify in your own way, in that case you have to contact to the particular organization, and when organization will do the needful changes to according to the user need, in that case some payment or some charges can be there. So, what is the important here regarding this open source and freely available to the customer? Philosophy of open source. So, first of all, open source means access to the source code and distribution terms of open source software must comply with the following criteria. So what are the terms associated with that? Philosophy of open source means when we are using any open source software, what are the things we should keep in our mind? What are the things we'll use in terms of open source category? So first one is redistribution. First one is redistribution means what? Free redistribution means there is no restriction if after getting the software, if we want to redistribute to further user or further just like who are the customer of that software. Next is about the software source code. Source code we know very well that every software is created by some programming code or source code. So in that source code, whenever we are developing or when we are delivering any open source software, in that case source code should be available in the compiled form, means anytime user can also run the source code to check the how programming works or how does that particular software works, they can understand. And then derived works. Now what does it mean? Actually it is a very long term, the word derived work. Derived work means suppose we are getting any software and after that any modification required. So modification or derived work allow them to redistribute it under some terms as licenses of the original software. Means what? For example, I got one software or open source software. After that, after getting the software, if anybody third person wants the software from me, that means in a different way. So in that case, there are few licenses categories are there. So that software also include the previous licenses. For example, I have the software A. I have software A, and I want to redistribute this software to another person. That software I will change into software B. In that case, the all the licenses category of software A should also continue with the software B. This is the main terms or terminology or philosophy of open source software. Now few more categories are there, few more aspects of open source are there, just like integrity of the author source code. What does it mean? Integrity means when a author has created or when a creator has created the actual source code, so author's name or author dedication should be mentioned all every time. Means if it is created by any organization, so how many distribution is made, that does not matter, but all the time the author actual author creation should be maintained. Any addition or modification should carry a different name or version number from the original software. Means the actual author is delivering us the software with 1.0. So when it will be updated to 2.0, so 2.0 will also comply with the author's name. Next, no discrimination against person or group. Means when it is declared as open source software, in that case there should be no type of discrimination. Means any person, any group of person can use that software. There is no limitation that they cannot use, they can use, like that. That this type of things should not be there. And no discrimination against fields of endeavor. Means what? There is just like no person restriction. In that case, in case of open source, there will be no just like discrimination in terms of any business organization or any type of institution that they cannot use, they can use, like this type of things cannot be used. And the next point is very much important, that I was telling, that license, distribution of license. Now what does license mean? Actually license actually gives the permission or different aspect which actually tells that what are the areas, what are the different perspective of that particular software. So whenever it is been redistributed, whenever any open source software is being redistributed, always we have to obey the licenses things or licenses that is attached to the program. Then licenses must not specific to a product. Licenses must not be specific to a product. What does it mean? There must not be any type of restriction on the right attached to the program. That means what? There should not be any condition on the program being part of a particular software distribution. Means what? Whenever we are just like using any software or source code, in that case there will be no restriction or no right restriction. Means any type of part will not cannot be used by some people. This type of restriction will not be there. And the licenses must not restrict other software, obviously. Means since I am using any open source software, in that case I can't restrict, or I should not be restrict with any other software usage. Means I can use any open source as well as parallelly I can use any type of proprietary software or free software also. And licenses must be technology neutral. Means whenever any license will be created, in that case always the it related to any technology, or that means any type of whenever technology has been upgraded. We know in very short period of time technology get updated in case of software foundation or software industry. So in that case, whenever we are creating any license for any open source terminology, in that case license should comply with any type of technology. Next, now one category is there, very interesting category or important term is there, FOSS, FOSS. What does it mean? When the two category of software that already we have discussed, that is one is free software, another is open source software. When these two category of software just like combined or merged together for the technical purpose or technical propagation, so that is called FOSS, free as well as open source. Free, open and open source software. The FOSS full form is free and open source software. And what is the main important aspect of this part? It is the important as freedom or technical progress. Now, few terms we have to know. Today we'll discuss about very two licenses term. These are, so first we'll discuss about the OSS and FOSS. FLOSS. OSS means open source software. Already we just gone through, which refers to the software whose source code is available to customer. Means when you are getting the software, you are getting the source code also, and anybody can redistribute it without any limitation. And obviously open source comes with free, that means with no payment, or sometimes very nominal payment, or very few just like any type of criteria. But FLOSS refers to free liver and open source software, or free liver and open source software. It means that when the software is free software as well as it is open source software, means we have the freedom to use the software, we have the freedom to redistribute the software, we have the freedom to upgrade or modify the software. That comes under the FLOSS, free, liber and open source software. Means the all the aspect of the free software as well as all the aspects of the open source software, when these two terms is being merged, that comes under the FLOSS. So this is the term today we are discussing till here. Tomorrow we'll propagate further.